Hello and welcome back for another historic video. Today we'll be taking a look at this Chandra tribal deck. The deck is running a handful of the Chandra planeswalkers and aims at burning our opponents out of the game. We'll start off here on the left with some of our early game interaction. We're running 4 copies of Chain Lightning. This 1 mana sorcery deals 3 damage to any target, and then that player or permanent's controller may pay 2 red, and if they do, they can copy this spell. Notably, we can copy the copy and send it back if we have the mana available. This can be used in the early game to control our opponent's board, or in the late game we can go to face with it to try and deal the last few points of damage. We have 2 copies of Oath of Chandra. This 2 mana legendary enchantment states that when Oath enters, it deals 3 damage to target creature an opponent controls, and then at the beginning of each end step, if a planeswalker entered the battlefield under our control, then it deals 2 additional damage. So early game we can remove a creature, and then mid and late game when we start playing our planeswalkers, this will deal additional damage. Then we have an X spell with Light Up the Night. This costs 1 red and X, and it's a sorcery, and it deals X damage to any target, and it deals X plus 1 damage if the target is a creature or planeswalker. So we can use this on turn 1 against a 1 toughness creature, or we can use it later in the game to remove larger creatures. This also has flashback of 4, and when we use this mode, we have to remove X loyalty counters from among planeswalkers we control, and it deals X damage based on that. So if we have a few planeswalkers in play with a good amount of loyalty on them, this is often enough to end the game on its own. Then to help bridge us into the mid and late game, we're also running 6 damage-based board wipes, 2 copies of Anger of the Gods. This 3 mana sorcery deals 3 damage to each creature, and if a creature dealt damage this way would die, it's exiled instead. And then we have 4 copies of Slagstorm. This 3 mana sorcery lets us choose to either deal 3 damage to each creature, or deal 3 damage to each player. So if our opponent is not playing a creature deck, or it's late in the game, and we need a few points of damage to win, we can always aim this at face as well. Then we have a few support cards at 2 mana. The first is Chandra's Regulator. This is a legendary artifact, and it states whenever we activate a loyalty ability of a Chandra planeswalker, we can pay 1, and if we do, we get to copy the ability and choose new targets. Additionally, we can discard a mountain or red card, and we can loot, meaning we can fix our hand if some of the cards aren't good for the matchup, or if we're digging for something specific. And at 2 mana, we also have Heart of Kiran. This is a legendary artifact vehicle with flying and vigilance, and for 3 we can crew it, but we don't really have any creatures in our deck, so we're going to have to use its secondary ability, which states we can remove a loyalty counter from a planeswalker we control rather than paying its crew cost, and that will turn it into a 4/4 creature. Notably, this can be activated on our turn or our opponent's turn, so players not familiar with this interaction might mistakenly try to attack one of our planeswalkers, and we can eat it up for free. Then once we get into the mid-game, we're going to try to use our planeswalkers to control the board. First, we have 3 copies of Chandra, Acolyte of Flame. This is a 3 mana legendary Chandra planeswalker. It has 2 0 loyalty abilities. The first one states that we get to put a loyalty counter on each red planeswalker we control. Typically, we will be using this once we have multiple planeswalkers in play. The additional loyalty on this Chandra is not as strong, but occasionally it can be used as well, depending on what our opponent's board state is, if we need it to survive combat. The second 0 loyalty ability it has is to create 2 1/1 elemental token creatures with haste, and then we sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. So this is one way to deal chip damage to our opponent. And then the last ability, -2, states that we may cast target instant or sorcery spell with mana value 3 or less from our graveyard. So this can be used to get one of our board wipes or our Chain Lightning and deal additional damage depending on what the situation is. Next, we're playing 1 copy of Chandra Dressed to Kill. This is a 3 mana legendary Chandra planeswalker. It has 2 +1 abilities and a -7. The first +1 states we can add a red, and it deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. So this allows us a bit of ramp the following turn. The other +1 ability states we can exile the top card of our library, and if it's red, we may cast it this turn. So this can be used to dig for additional planeswalkers to play, or removal if we're in a dire situation. And then it's -7, states we can exile the top 5 cards of our library and cast red spells from among them. We also get an emblem with whenever we cast a red spell, this emblem deals X damage to any target, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast a spell. So if we are able to get Chandra Dress to Kill up to 7 loyalty, this is a quick way we can close out the game. At 4 mana, we have Chandra Torch of Defiance, arguably the best planeswalker in the deck. This legendary Chandra Planeswalker has 2+1 abilities. The first one states we can exile the top card of our library, and we may cast that card. If we don't, it deals 2 damage to each opponent, so it has a bit of burn. Then its second +1 ability lets us add 2 red mana, ramping us into the late game. The turn it comes down, it can also use its -3 ability to deal 4 damage to target creature. Notably, this can also be used in conjunction with some of our red burn spells to try and take out slightly larger creatures. And then Chandra's last ability is a -7, and it states that we get an emblem with whenever we cast a spell, this emblem deals 5 damage to any target, quickly finishing out the game. Using some of these planeswalkers to add additional mana, we're hoping to bridge into the late game where we have some really powerful Chandras. The first being Chandra Heart of Fire. This 5 mana legendary Chandra Planeswalker has 2+1 abilities. The first states we can discard our hand, exile the top 3 cards of our library. Until end of turn, we can play the cards exiled this way. So late game, once we are low on cards, this is tremendous card advantage. If it's a little bit earlier in the game and we have cards that we still want to keep in our hand, we can use the other +1 ability, which states that it deals 2 damage to any target. This can be used to clean up creatures on the board or can go face. And then it's -9, states we can search our graveyard and library for any number of red instant and sorcery cards, exile them, and then we can cast them this turn. We also get to add 6 red mana to help us do so. We have 2 copies of Chandra Awakened Inferno. This 6 mana legendary Chandra Planeswalker can't be countered. Its +2 ability states that each opponent gets an emblem with at the beginning of our upkeep, the emblem deals 1 damage to them. This stacks each turn, so you can put 2, 3, 4 emblems on our opponent, dealing more and more damage during each of their upkeeps. It also has a built-in board wipe that can be used the turn it is cast. For -3, it can deal 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. And then additionally, it has a -X ability, where it deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker. And if a permanent dealt damage this way would die, it is exiled instead, so more protection the turn it comes down. Then the last planeswalker in the deck is Chandra Hope's Beacon. This is also a 6 mana legendary Chandra Planeswalker. It has a passive ability that states whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell, we get to copy it and choose new targets for the copy. This ability only triggers once each turn, but it will allow us to double our spells such as Chain Lightning or one of our board wipes to now deal 6 damage. Then for her abilities, she has a +2, where she adds 2 mana in any color combination, providing ramp to play more cards. She also has a +1, where we can exile the top 5 cards of our library. Until end of turn, we can cast instant or sorcery spells from among those cards. And last ability is a -X, where she deals X damage to each of up to 2 targets. So this is a good way to remove a couple creatures in a turn, or we can always just go face if needed. Notably, all these Chandras, in conjunction with the Acolyte, putting an extra loyalty counter on, can grow towards their ultimates very quickly, so we're hoping to see a lot during the gameplay. And then the last card that we have in the deck are 3 Chandra's Incinerator. At face value, this is a 6 mana 6/6 elemental creature. However, it states that it costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponent this turn. So with damage positive spells such as Chain Lightning, we can reduce the cost of this. Additionally, a lot of our Chandra Planeswalkers deal damage directly to our opponent, also reducing the cost. So hopefully we can get this out for 1 or 2 mana. Then it also has Trample, so it's a good way to pressure our opponent. And its last ability states, whenever a source we control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, this creature deals that much damage to target creature or planeswalker that player controls. So when our Chandras are dealing direct damage, or if we're pointing our burn spell at our opponent's face, then the Incinerator will also be able to control their board at the same time, often devastating for decks with a lot of weenie creatures. For the mana base, we're running 24 lands. We have 20 mountains and a Sokenzan, Crucible of Defiance. Occasionally, if we have enough lands and mana, we will channel this and create 2/1/1 creature tokens with haste, but usually it will just be played out as a red land. And lastly, we're running 3 copies of Mobilized District. For 4 mana, this land becomes a 3/3 creature with vigilance until end of turn. That's still a land. And this ability is reduced by 1 for each legendary creature and planeswalker we control. So if we have 4 legendary planeswalkers in play, then we can activate this without paying anything, which becomes a very strong ability to deal extra damage or to block when our opponent attacks in. Due to the vigilance, we would also be able to attack on our turn and defend with it during our opponent's turn as well. Before we jump into the gameplay, I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe the video. It really helps the channel. And without further ado, let's jump into the games. This hand is okay. We do need to draw into something for the mid-game. I think we let the elves live for now. We can go for their payoff card. It's an Archdruid. So we'll take that out right away. Another elves. And a shepherd. Board wipe is a great top deck. We'll get down Heart of Kirin first. Hope our opponent plays out a few more small elves instead of holding up Shepherd's ability. It's going to be a Collected Company instead. So here we can bait the Collected Company by destroying the untapped elf. And then we can use Anger to clean up the remaining cards. We'll switch phases, force them to play it. And then Anger of the Gods should clean this up. And our opponent concedes. This hand is okay. We're hoping to go up against a creature deck. Start on a mountain. Barrier of Bones. So our opponent is looking to sacrifice their creatures and return them from the graveyard. Notably, Anger of the Gods does exile. We'll get the regulator down. Here we could play out the torch. Our opponent can mark 3 damage on it, and then next turn we can wipe the board.
Hey, over here! Oh, this is gonna hurt. Time to fight fire with fire.
I think here we can, well, we'll add the mana.
Yup, this'll be easy.
We have 8 mana available, so we'll just play out the incinerator. We could search for another card. I think we'll just pass the turn. Our opponent actually does have the destroy spell, so now we're in a bit of trouble. We will discard the mountain here.
Guess you don't need me anymore.
We'll use Anger, exile all their creatures, and then we can hold up the regulator again. We'll get rid of the Slag Storm. Get rid of another Slag Storm. Unfortunate. I have to pass the turn. Didn't find the land for Chandra yet. There we go. So we can add 2 red. And here we will cast one of the Chain Lightning so that we can use the double effect. Next turn we can cast another one. Then we'll actually use the floating mana. Get rid of the Slag Storm. Alright, another Chandra. That's good to see. This will outpace their life gain. We'll add mana again. No need to... Well, we copy it as mana positive, so might as well play out Chandra Awakened. We can copy the emblem. And our opponent concedes. I don't know how many other drain effects they have in their deck. They might have still been able to race if they drew into a few. This hand is banking on our opponent having a lot of small creatures. They are on the play. Faithless Looting. Are they on a reanimation strategy, or are they just using this for card selection? Looks like this could be a Shifting Woodlands deck. It's looking more like Oops All Spells. So they're digging for their Charbelcher. It is a bit of a different build than we're used to seeing. However, our opponent is not likely to have anything for our planeswalkers to interact with, so this is going to be a tough matchup. So this is the first time I'm seeing this deck, and it looks like it is going to be an absolute nightmare. So essentially the way this combo deck is working is the Awakener is going to reveal cards until it reveals a permanent card, and that's why they're using these modal lands, because they are all going to be sorceries and instants, so they are not actually permanents, and that allows them to either hit another Awakener or one of their cards that copies the Awakener, such as Glasspool Mimic, and there are a couple others as well. And once they have a Cursed Mirror, then they'll copy the version that the Cursed Mirror created, because that one has haste, and that allows them to swing for lethal in the same turn. This is one day after the ban announcement on Scholar of the Lost Trove, and already we have a replacement deck that can win as early as turn 2, it looks like. This hand is good, we'll keep. Play out a mountain and pass. Up against a life gain deck. We'll start on the heart. We should be able to sweep up our opponent's creatures next turn if needed. Notably, Anger will exile the Veteran as well, so we don't have to worry about them flashing it back. And some more life gain from our opponent. Here I think we'll play out the Dress to Kill.
I'll light your way.
With the mana, we can take out the Ornator, and then if our opponent attacks in, we can block with Kieran. Kieran's an old card, hasn't been played much, but we can use the loyalty from our Planeswalker to crew it.
Everything will be fine if we stand together. Our true strength lies in our friendships.
Looks like our opponent doesn't know about the interaction, so we will eat their creature.
Can't douse these flames.
Here we can use the Slag Storm, and then we'll be able to crew our Kieran again, take out their Ajani, and we were in a pretty dominating position. Good game. This hand looks good. We'll give it a keep. Green land from our opponent. They cycle Gaia's Blessing. Here we can play out the Heart of Kieran. It's good, means our mana doesn't go unspent. Another Gaia's Blessing. Our opponent is hedging against mill decks. We'll use the Dress to Kill. He'll be able to ramp us next turn.
Go ahead. Fight me as hard as you can. Real stuff.
And I think here we do start to get aggressive with our Heart.
Ooh, payback's gonna be spicy.
White mana emerges.
Watch me heat up the dance floor.
We'll play out the Acolyte. This can put a loyalty counter on all of our Planeswalkers.
Fires of passion within.
Here we'll take a counter off the Acolyte.
Well, that's rude.
Hit for 4. And we will deal 1 damage to our opponent here, because we can flash it back next turn and deal lethal if our Planeswalkers survive. An enchantment deck just had a slow start. So here we have lethal a multitude of ways.
Find your fires of passion within. Give a toast? I'd love to.
And we can just do 8 damage directly to our opponent. That'll be game.
Better not ruin my dress, buddy.
This hand is okay. We probably would rather have a sweeper than light up the sky, but it is some interaction to bridge us into Torch of Defiance. We'll give it a try. There is our sweeper. No play from our opponent yet. If they're on an enchantment deck, they might be waiting until they can cast a creature and protect it in the same turn. Here we'll just run out Chandra, deal 2 damage to our opponent.
I knew you. Yup, you're going down.
One spell a turn is fine with us.
This'll be easy.
Play out Awakened Inferno.
I know who I am, and no one is telling me what to. No pressure.
Now our opponent has a real clock on them. And these planeswalkers are going to be difficult for them to deal with, most likely. Burn spells won't work, so white removal. We'll give them another emblem.
Is it just me, or is it getting a little warm in here?
Exile the top card of our library.
Oh, this is gonna hurt.
Deal 3 damage to them. Then we can also hit them for 3. Our opponent has also missed quite a few land drops. Screaming Nemesis can finish off Tortured Defiance. Goes for Awakened Inferno instead.
Well, that's spicy.
We'll activate the Tortured Defiance first.
Oh, today's my lucky day.
I don't know, do we even cast this? We could use Light Up the Sky, have guaranteed lethal next turn. I think we decline it. The 2 damage is worth more.
Oh, looks like someone's getting a little sweaty.
So they're going to take 3, so we just need to deal 4 to them here. Light Up the Sky will do that. So this should be game. Opponent stumbled a bit. This hand is okay. We have the board wipe if our opponent is on an aggressive creature deck. Elves. So we just need to make sure they don't use lords to get out of range of Slagstorm. They have the Archdruid. We'll play the Regulator since it's our only move. Lookout is good. They would need 2 more lords to get their elves out of burn range. There's the first one. Notably, that one still dies to the Slagstorm, even with another lord, so they would need 2 more still. Symbiote can protect one of their elves. Love to see them run out the last 2 cards in their hand here. They draw a card instead, so they'll have 3 cards in hand, plus one of these elves going into next turn. Can continue to go with the Symbiote. Collected Company here. There is an additional lord. And so, thankfully, we can still sweep this up. When the Leaf Crown Visionary dies, then the Elvish Archdruids will drop down to 3 power and toughness each, and then they will die as well. Our opponent did not pick up one of their elves. That was a mistake. The Symbiote can be activated on both players' turns, and our opponent concedes. This hand is okay. Lead off on a mountain, pass the turn. Up against the blue deck. See if their tempo. Lauren revealed indicates that they're probably Azurus control. Delver Secret, so maybe they're mono blue. Double Delver. This could deal quite a bit of pressure. We will just sweep them both up here with the Anger of the Gods. We won't play around with one of our planeswalkers. And that's enough for the win. This hand is okay. Leyline of the Void is not effective against us. Or it could be on a mill deck or a discard deck. They start off with Thoughtseize, so here they're likely to take the heart. Nope, they go right for the Planeswalker. Slagstorm, likely not a useful card in this match, so if our opponent discards us again, we'll start going face with those. Happy to get down the Planeswalker here. This will be a persistent source of damage until our opponent removes it.
Go get him. Don't worry. I brought company.
Here I think we get rid of the Slagstorm again. Our opponent's still holding up mana, so we'll just create some token creatures.
Go get him, but say hi to my fiery friends.
We don't want to risk our lands getting removed, and so we'll hold on to those until our opponent is tapped out. Now we can hit for a lot of damage this turn. We'll activate one of the districts. Create some elementals.
Go get him, but
And crew using a loyalty.
well, that's rude.
Hit for 9. Opponent down to 5. Now here we just need to deal 2 damage to our opponent. I think we do the same play again. And our opponent concedes. So once we were able to resolve one of our planeswalkers, our opponent didn't have very many answers. The problem with discard decks is they often struggle to deal with cards that are already on the board. Creature lands are very strong, and additionally, they can't discard the top of the deck. So when we get something like Chain Lightning off the top, they really don't have any way to interact with it. Good game. This hand has some removal. At the moment, we don't have any way to discount the Incinerator. Up against another red deck. Might be burn. Seems like our opponent did have a response there. So we'll just hold on, try and get another land for Chandra. Rock face, so maybe lizards. We will fire off the Anger of the Gods right away here. And we missed the land drop. Screaming Nemesis will deal 3 damage to us. We can no longer gain life. Another hired claw. So a bunch of hasty creatures here, not what we want to see from our slow board wipe deck. And since we're missing land drops, we can't even get out our planeswalker and double spell. Opponent's still with a full hand. Now they start going face. They might even be able to burn us out here if they have 3 more spells. There's 2. Torch of Defiance will let us get out the Acolyte. Here I think we just put a loyalty counter on both creatures.
I believe Mother Rudy gave us homework.
Lava Runner will deal 2 damage. Any burn spell or pump spell wins the game for our opponent. Does look like they have it. So, very poor showing from our deck. Alright, so there you have the deck. As we surmised in the deck tech, we're pretty strong against decks with a lot of small creatures. Being able to wipe them all up with our Anger of the Gods and Slagstorm allows us to get into the mid game and late game when our planeswalkers can really dominate. If our opponent was able to get a creature on board that had 4 or more toughness, our deck does struggle to remove it. Overall, the deck felt maybe a little underpowered for the current historic format. You really do need a critical mass of planeswalkers before they can take over the game, as usually resolving just one of them is not strong enough. If you're going to play red, a dedicated burn deck or an aggro deck would be the direction I would take at this time. Overall, though, I was very happy with the interaction between Heart of Kiran and our planeswalkers. Heart being an older card that doesn't see much play, I feel like a lot of people were surprised when we were able to remove a loyalty counter from our planeswalker to activate its crew ability, allowing us to block some of our opponent's creatures and eat them for free. And then additionally, it was a good way to push damage once we resolved a planeswalker. Notably, Chandra's Incinerator should probably be cut from this deck. After playing the games, it became apparent that there just wasn't enough on-board damage to face to get it out early in the game, where it could have an impact at controlling our opponent's creatures. Demobilized District also felt strong. With all of our planeswalkers being legendary, we could often activate it at its reduced cost, and even Chandra's Regulator, doubling some of our planeswalkers' loyalty abilities, was a very useful tool to have in the deck. My favorite interaction, though, had to be Light Up the Sky, initially using it as a cheap removal spell for one of our opponent's creatures, and then in the mid to late game being able to flash it back by removing loyalty counters from our planeswalkers allows us to deal a massive amount of damage, which we usually would want to aim at our opponent directly. I do know there are a ton of Chandra planeswalkers that have been printed that were not included here. It is possible that some of these slots can be interchanged with those. However, I feel that the Torch of Defiance and the Hope's Beacon are non-negotiable and need to remain in the deck, but I'll leave that for you to decide. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content.